All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are on week 5 of the Fall Health Games, and it's our Monday night huddle, and it's our team huddle. Nice group of people that are come out to join us. I know you guys are busy, so I'm glad you're here. My name is Dee. I'm our room leader, and I'm so excited for all the progress. I will say this is one of the I've been doing these challenges since the beginning. It's been over a year. We've had a number of these challenges, and I think we have the most participants actively participating this time. Sometimes people sign up, and then other things happen in their life, and they can't be really involved. But I would say this is the greatest percentage of people participating, and I'm watching you get your participation points, and you're really racking them up. So that's fantastic. And if you're having any kind of struggles reaching your goal, especially if you set up for that 6% weight loss goal, remember that I'm here to help you. Your health coach, if she's on here on our team, is here to help you. And our goal is for you to be successful. So don't hesitate to reach out. That's why we're here, and that's why we work in this environment. And what I thought I'd take a few minutes to talk about tonight is about the concept of balanced eating, what we call low glycemic eating. It's a concept that, sometimes if somebody's familiar with somebody who has diabetes or type 2 diabetic, maybe they've heard of the principle of eating every 2 to 3 hours, but it's not something that most of us do. And if you're on the Take Shape for Life program, you've now been introduced to that idea. And if you're on our optimal health weight loss plan, you've been introduced to the idea, you've been following it. Hopefully you're experiencing the benefits of it. But what I thought I might just do is talk a little bit about the science of balanced eating. And I will do some of the discussion will be, I think most of the people on the call are on the weight loss plan, but a lot of our discussion will be related to the Take Shape for Life optimal weight loss plan, because I'm going to talk about the science and specifically how our weight loss plan differs from the most common approach to weight loss. And the most common approach to weight loss is what we call caloric restriction, right? So we all know the concept of losing weight is basically, consuming less calories than we're, expending. I mean, under a perfect world, that's the way weight loss works. A pound is 3,500 calories. You create a gap between what you're intaking and what's going out, and you create that gap, and theoretically we should lose weight. But our bodies are not necessarily perfect machines, and there is science to weight loss. And you've probably experienced on your own situations where maybe you've cut those calories and you're like, okay, well, this makes no sense. I cut calories, I've exercised, and yet I've lost nothing, or I've actually gained a pound. And what Dr. Anderson did, and what the researchers behind our optimal weight loss plan did, is there's a lot of science behind it, where they actually look at the nutrition, the nutrients of what we put in our body, and what that does to our insulin pump. And insulin is what our body's response to managing our blood sugar. So I am not a scientist. I don't pretend to be one on TV. So I'm going to speak this in layman's term and the best that I understand the concept. But I will tell you that there's reality to what I'm saying, because I've seen it work time on time after time, not only for my own self and the way I feel and my weight loss, my body composition and all that, but for the client and hundreds of clients that I've helped. So really the two components that we like to talk about when we come to talk about managing our weight, and it really applies whether or not we are losing weight, or even if we want to maintain weight, because even if we maintain weight, we're going to be following the same healthy eating habits. And that involves managing our caloric intake, but also managing the types of foods that we eat, so that we're not turning on what's called our insulin pump. High insulin levels in our body are not good. High insulin levels are what, and continuous high insulin levels are what contribute to what's called metabolic disorder. And metabolic disorder is, you might hear the term high blood sugar, borderline diabetes. You might hear type 2 diabetic. There's some other things that are related to high blood sugar. So it's not good from the terms that when our insulin is very, very high, eventually our pancreas and our cells are not absorbing the insulin right, and our body just doesn't function the way that it's designed. And that happens primarily because of the types of foods that we're eating, the excess weight that we're carrying. And that's why you always see that pattern not everyone, but there's generally a pattern between people who are overweight, and you see the pattern of type 2 diabetes in our country. And in fact, I think I saw something that like a toddler recently was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It used to be called adult onset diabetes, but now based on the foods that we're eating, it's happening to our children and even now down to the toddler stage. So the best things we can do for ourselves and for our families are to learn what types of foods we should be eating, understand how this affects our body, and then start to shift our eating habits in that direction. So I'm going to do a screen share, and I have a couple of slides that will help me describe what happens in our body with blood sugar and our body's insulin response. So give me a second while I share my screen. All right. So Elisa, nod your head if you can see my screen as far as a blood sugar chart. Yeah, okay, because I can only see you. Most of the group disappeared. So you may or may not have seen this before, but this is in Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health book. And you know, we've talked about it on the Health Challenge about eating 6 times a day, every 2 to 3 hours. So we're just going to go a little bit of the science of what happens. So when you see this chart, this blue line here, the dark blue line, that's the stable line. This is we're going to talk about in more detail, but this is what's our blood sugar. This is what happens inside our body, what's called rising and falling blood sugar levels. And the dotted line that you see is our body's creation of insulin, and where the insulin is stabilizing what's happening in our body as a response of these elevated and dropping blood sugar levels. The white line and the dotted line are basically the baseline, like basically the flat line of where our body should be before we start eating and our body starts reacting to what's going on. So in this example, let's say there's an individual that is, you know, not managing the nutrients of what they eat. They're just following a kind of a typical American diet. They may or may not be eating 6 times a day, but this is just a visual of kind of what happens with our body. So let's say an individual wakes up in the morning and they have a glass of orange juice. You know, juice is good for us, and there's a lot of reasons we might have juice for our vitamin C, whatever. You can make a case for it. But in and of itself, orange juice has a lot of sugar. It's natural sugar, but it has a lot of sugar in it. So if we have that and we have it by ourselves, you see with this blue line that our body it raises our blood sugar. All right, it raises the amount of sugar that's in our blood. So you see it spike up. So when this happens, you're going to have a physical little burst of energy. All right. So, you know, if you don't, you know, you're really hungry and then you eat something and you feel better, well, that's that little surge of blood sugar that you have. So not a bad thing. So now you've got some energy, you're feeling good. And so you're going on with your day. And meanwhile, your body, this tick, 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 tick of the dotted line is your body creating insulin to manage the blood sugar in your body. Well, with blood sugar and anything else in life, you know, what goes up must come down. So your blood sugar spikes up as a result of having the orange juice, and then it's going to drop probably just about as rapidly as it spiked up based on what we had. So you see this pretty rapid, couple hours later, you see this rapid decrease in blood sugar. And the physical response you would have to this is you might start to feel hungry, you might start to feel dizzy, woozy, like, oh my gosh, I got to eat kind of feeling. So what the example here is that we grab something, our body will start to kind of crave carbs, more sugar, more carbs. So this person grabs a bagel. You see the spike go back up. So you start to see this down and upward motion. So they have a sandwich or a burger for lunch with some bread on it. You see it spike up. Then they get that mid-afternoon sweet tooth craving. You see them go for the chocolate. That used to be me. And then, you know, you see it go down, and then you see them eat their big dinner and you see it go up. Well, what doesn't happen as rapidly as the highs and lows, if you notice this, what happens is that this dotted line, our insulin does not drop as fast as it rises. So over time, if you think about an individual doing this day after day after day and kind of eating in this pattern, kind of a higher glycemic, higher carb diet, and the studies show that the average American, you know, assuming they're not following any kind of weight loss plan like this, their diet is about 70% carbohydrates, whether they're coming from natural sources like fruit or things like breads and grains and chips and things like that. So somebody who's eating like this day after day after day, they're having these peaks and valleys in their blood sugar. And what's going to happen to somebody who's feeling that way is they're going to have these bursts of energy and the tired stages. And so you've probably had that yourself. If you've ever experienced those kind of mid-afternoon slumps where, oh my gosh, I just need a nap. I'm exhausted, no matter how much sleep you had the night before. Or for me, these kind of highs and lows, this used to affect me even through the night, and it used to affect my sleep a lot, these kind of highs and lows. So going back to what we described with the blood sugar, what's going on, or the insulin, what's going on up here is your insulin level is staying high. So that means that, you know, your pancreas keeps pumping this insulin, and it's up there at a high level. Well, high insulin levels do a number of things in our body. The first thing they do is they actually cause fat storage in our body. So even if we're trying to lose weight and we're eating, we're cutting our calories, but we're still eating a lot of carbohydrates and types of foods that spike our blood sugar, this high insulin levels that we're carrying could be actually causing our body to store fat. And that's why we're not losing weight, or not losing weight as rapidly as we want. High insulin levels also are known to cause physical cravings and hunger, even though we're not really hungry. So it's that kind of feeling that, you know, we just want something salty, or, oh my gosh, I just need something sweet. It's those cravings that no matter how hard mentally you try to fight it and say, oh, you know, I'm going to be good, I'm going to be good, I'm going to be good. But that physical craving that, you know what, before you know it, you're into eating something that you didn't want. And that's our insulin. I mean, it truly is a physical response that happens. So, you know, managing these high insulin levels, what's going to happen is that's going to be putting us on the path to metabolic syndrome, to this, you know, high blood sugar and potentially diabetes. So if you've been introduced to the Take Shape for Life program, you know this, or through the readings you're learning about, we promote balanced eating. And what balanced eating means is that we're eating lower glycemic foods, and then also incorporating fiber and protein, so that when we pair our foods together, we don't get those rapid spikes in our blood sugar, and that we manage it. And with the proteins and the fibers, it slows the absorption of the blood sugar. So we're not eating foods that spike it as high, but even if it is raising up because of the other foods or combinations we're putting together, it's going to more stabilize it. If you're on our weight loss program, or optimal weight, like 5-in-1 plan, we utilize meal replacements, which are very, very nutrient dense products where we can pack a lot of nutrition and give a very good balance of carbohydrates and protein, a very perfect balance that's very hard to do when you're trying to manage it yourself with grocery store foods. We give you that perfect balance of carbs and protein, and then you eat one meal a day on your own, which we give you the guidelines for, which is just protein and low carbohydrate vegetables. So when we do this is somebody who's on our plan. They're eating these portion controlled meal replacements through the day that are low carbohydrate and also, you know, low sugars. So you see that we almost flatline our blood sugar, and then therefore, because our blood sugar is not spiking and leveling, you see that the insulin is doing the same thing. So this puts our body into that mild fat burning state. And this is like what I love to call it the happy place, because when a client reaches fat burning, it's a different way of losing weight. When we just cut calories, we're working off glycogen. We're basically working off sugars to lose weight. And when our body depletes the sugars, it goes looking in other parts of our body to find it, pulls them out of our muscle, burns a little bit of muscle. But a lot of things are happening when we're losing weight just by cutting calories. But when we lose weight this way, and in this fat burning state, we're losing nothing but fat. We're burning fat for energy. And then for those of you who have experienced the other happy place side effects are that because our insulin level is so low and we've pretty much flatlined it, our cravings and our hunger go away. These are physical cravings and hunger pretty much go away. Doesn't mean that there might be a little bit more still going on upstairs on the brain, but the physical cravings go away. So we have really good energy. We don't have those peaks and valleys. We have good energy. We're sleeping well, and then our body's burning fat for energy, and that's a faster way to lose weight. So that's why we get those results of 2 to 5 pounds in the first 2 weeks and 1 to 2 pounds thereafter. So somebody who eats this way and on our weight loss plan, or the 4-in-2 plan, if they're an active exerciser, they're going to feel great this whole time. And as long as they don't deviate off the plan, they're going to continually get those results those proven results, because it's just a formula. It's science, and it works. The only thing that ever messes it up is if we don't work the program the way it's intended. And even if you're not on our weight loss plan, this is what the ultimate goal that we're going for is that once an individual is on maintenance, they may or may not be eating meal replacements as some of their supplements. We teach about low glycemic eating, how to pick foods in the grocery store and pair them so that we mimic that same response, so that we manage our blood sugar. So you see some peaks and valleys, but they are nowhere at the extremes of where they were before. So when an individual reaches their goal weight, or if they're trying to lose weight this way, but when they reach their goal weight, their body will no longer go in those fat storage modes, as long as we continue to manage our calories at our maintenance rate, and we eat the right foods that fuel our body effectively. So I wanted to show you, especially for those of you guys who are not on our plan, if you're on our weight loss plan, you got the books with it. And Dr. Anderson's books, chapters 8 through 12, have all our chapters about low glycemic eating. And we've got shopping lists in there and charts on the kinds of foods that we pick that are low glycemic. But I thought I'd just cross over and show you guys where you can find on your own some shopping lists that you can print and take with you, like to the grocery store. You can go to drwayneanderson.com, and just notice that's Anderson, which is ANDERSEN.com. And then go over to the resource tab, and then go down to the guides and charts and click on that. And then when you click on that, he's got some shopping charts while you're on the 5-in-1 plan, but then you'll see this tab here for healthy low glycemic shopping for health. And so this is for somebody who's trying to just, improve their eating habits, or if they're on maintenance. Click on that, and then he's got each by category. For example, like vegetables, he's got examples of what are good choices, like very low GI. GI stands for glycemic index. So here's examples of vegetables that are very low on the glycemic index chart. So these are the kinds of vegetables that will not spike your blood sugar. Whereas some of these down here, like peas and corns and carrots, they have natural sugars in them, and they will spike your blood sugar more than the lower ones will. And so all of these foods are healthy foods. Nobody's saying not to eat these things, but we just want to be wise in what we pick. And then when you're working with your health coach, we teach you how you can pair these foods with proteins, like a couple slices of turkey, or a cheese stick, or a couple nuts or a tablespoon of peanut butter with your apple or pear or something like that is going to add that protein to it. And even though it's low glycemic, will just slow down the absorption of the blood sugar, keep you feeling full longer, and keep you feeling good. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. And I gave you guys a lot of information. So what I wanted to do, we've got about 10 minutes left. I wanted to open it up for questions. Because I know that this can be a little confusing sometimes, or sometimes somebody doesn't understand what happens if they go off plan. How long does it take to go back into fat burning? So rather than just me continuing to talk, I want to open it up to you guys. So if you have questions, just unmute yourself, and then we'll kind of take them one by one.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that there were certain things that you can eat to slow down the absorption of certain foods. Can you kind of reiterate that again?
Yeah. So if we pair something that is that has sugar in it, so even if it's like an apple, which has natural sugars, an apple has anywhere from 19 to 25 grams of carbohydrates in it, or whether we choose, a couple of crackers, whole wheat crackers or something. And I'm kind of talking like you're not on the 5-in-1 plan at this point. But if you have that in and of itself, you're going to have that same little spike in your blood sugar. Even if it's an apple, and there's 100 reasons why I want you to eat fruit, because it's so good for us. But if you eat it by itself, it's going to spike up your blood sugar. And you're going to have that kind of same response that I showed you on that first chart, where that blue line goes up, and then your insulin goes up, and then you're going to have that drop down. So if we pair it, it's already got fiber in it. The apple's got the fiber in it. But if we pair it, and let's say we choose a smaller apple. So when I say apple, I want you to think in terms of buying, the bag of apples, like the 3-pound bag of apples, the small ones. Not the big Cortlands that could like feed a family of 4. You know?
Yeah.
Or Honey Crisp, the big ones that they get.
Right.
So think small. So think small apple, and then think like a cheese stick with it.
Okay.
Cheese stick is protein. So now you're going to have that apple and you're going to have a cheese stick with it. You've put it together. It's going to slow the absorption of the blood sugar. And then between the two, because protein takes longer to digest, it's going to keep you feeling fuller longer. You're not going to have that spike in blood sugar, spike in insulin, and then it drop and be starving again.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, so we're talking about pairing protein, which is what's slowing down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And on the challenge wall, the main challenge wall, there is from Dr. A some healthy fueling options that are around 100 calories, and a lot of those are good examples of balanced, good balance of carbs and protein.
I have a question.
Yes.
What happens if sometimes I just get a craving or whatever, and I eat 2 of the meals, the Take Shape for Life meals?
So that is better than any other choice that you could make. All right. So any other choice that you can make, having a second meal replacement or an additional meal replacement is not a bad choice. Not something that we want to do consistently, because the scientist that put the plan together was really designed with that perfect balance of 85 to 100 grams of carbs. So even though it's balanced, it starts to add extra to the program and can kilter that a little bit. But it's going to one day, like having an extra brownie, Metafast brownie, is a much better choice and is not going to kick you out of fat burning like if you had the real thing.
Right. But does it make a difference if I did it like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when nothing else was there, or if I did one right after the other?
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, we have you space them out because like the meal replacements every 2 to 3 hours, because that will help to fuel your body, control your hunger, stabilize your blood sugar. That's the ideal world. But sometimes our schedules get messed up, and sometimes my clients have to eat 2 together at night just to get them all in for the day. Yeah. That's better than skipping one.
Okay.
Yeah, less is not more on this plan. And sometimes if you're going to have something extra too, if you're going to go over on something on plan, and I'm not saying that this is something we endorse or encourage on a regular basis, but let's say like you're just super hungry or something, having some additional protein is like a hard-boiled egg or a couple slices of turkey or something like that. You will still remain in fat burning because we haven't upped the carbohydrate. So a little extra protein is even more likely to keep you in fat burning. I think somebody unmuted herself. Sharon, do you have a question? Maybe not. All right, other questions? You guys are way smarter than me. I mean, it took me years to catch on to this concept. All right, was this helpful?
Absolutely.
Is it for those of you guys on program, or if you're not program? I mean, for me, I found this such a difference. I just didn't understand the difference between just reducing calories and fat burning. What a difference it would make in the way that my that my body would look, the way my body would feel, the way weight would come off. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can hear me.
Did you want to add something, Katrina?
No.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Vicky, go.
Yeah. So one of the things that really, since I finished the program, that I would say with 98% consistency now, is I never eat a piece of fruit by itself. I will always pair it with a cut of cheese, with some nuts, Gary's mid-morning snack, my husband, is like a small apple and a Baby Bell cheese. So I will not eat a piece of fruit unless I've got some kind of protein balance with it, because I just know that blood sugar up. And so that's a way that I have managed, once I went through maintenance and continue on. So that's just like a little thing that I've tucked away in my head that pretty much, you know, when you go through 49 years of your life eating a certain way, and then you just change it. But that's just something that I have just incorporated into my life.
And that's a really good point that, and my guess is, Vicki, you do that because you know what happens to you when you don't do that.
I either want to go to sleep or I want to eat really bad things an hour later.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say if you ever get in situations, let's say you're not on the 5-in-1 program where you're in that really controlled environment. So you're on maintenance or you're trying to lose weight on your own. If you ever get to those situations where you've got those real physical cravings, or, you know, you're kind of going off the wagon or whatever, the key is look at the past 24 hours and try to figure out where the breakdown was. And most often it's going to happen because we either didn't drink enough water, we might be dehydrated, which is often, hunger is often a sign of dehydration. But more often than not, I find that an individual went too long, and it's me included, went too long between meals, you know, go to that 4 or 5 hour mark where you're just starving, your blood sugar's so low, you're like, whatever, just give me something. Or not eating that balance of foods, and that you just didn't realize it, and your blood sugar was tick, 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 tick going up. And then, you know, suddenly the wheels are coming off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So can I add one more thing to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other thing is, especially when you talk about the science of the feelings every 2.5 to 3 hours, I think a large part of that is also having a plan, which is, I think, where the meal replacements come in really handy, because you can always have something in your glove compartment or in your purse, because that when you just talked about going too long and all of a sudden just give me something, I don't care what it is. I always think I always have to have an emergency stash for my emergency stash, so that I always have a plan on guard, because you just never know when something, you're going to get stuck in traffic, something will take you longer. You know, all it takes is a few times where you thought you had a plan that you didn't really plan for, and then you just have a backup for that. So that's always a good tool, I think.
Yeah, so important, so important. Or even, you know, for me, I mean, just having those things available to me, you know, if I get stressed or whatever, that tends to be my trigger to want to, you know, go for something. But so if I have a meal replacement, let's say a peanut butter crunch bar, well, I know if I eat that, I'm going to, you know, it's going to help get me back in control and kind of give me that sweet taste and all that. So I can, you know, manage that. So really good point. Well, good. Well, we're just about out of time, and I appreciate your valuable time for you guys taking time out. You guys have been so consistent coming out week after week. We will do one final Zoom next week. As our last week wrap up, kind of our home stretch. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about next steps, what comes after the challenge. My goal is that every single one of us is a winner. There's nothing more fun to get a little extra change in your PayPal account, but more fun to is what goes on with your health. So I've had such a super fun time with you guys along the way. And I think more than anything, I love these Zoom meetings and seeing you guys face to face. So unless there's any other questions, I appreciate every single one of you guys, and wish you luck, and reach out if you need some help. We're here for you. Night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.